Okay, so what is the value of that incremental 109,000 at a 5% cap? That's essentially worth, $2.184 million. So we're increasing the value of the building by $2.184 million.
So I started about 10 years ago. I bought about 15 properties, had about 35 units before I got into my first multifamily building.
For me, it started in 2015. Taking weekend courses, reading a lot of books. Right, so that was my first partnership. It ended up going really well, and we've done like over 20 flips.
I'm capped with mortgages now, and some of the properties I have in the residential side, I have like a 35% loan to value, and because I was employed, now I'm self-employed, I'm a realtor as well, we're not able to refinance. So now we're considering selling those to put them into multifamily, where the financing is a bit of a different process.
So we got this one off the MLS, and it was on the market, I think it was like 400 days. So it's a very long time. Yeah. So, and the reason why it was on the MLS for 400 days is because.
All right, in today's video, we're going to dive deep into the backstory behind Mike and Mark. They're the guys that bought the two side-by-side 7-plexes in Hamilton, Ontario. And once they're done these strategic renovations, they'll have created more than $1.7 million in equity just from this deal. Let that sink in. That's a ton of value that they're creating by strategically renovating each of these units. And in today's video, we're going to dive into how they find deals like this, how they negotiate on them, and just what their experience level was before they transitioned from smaller real estate investing into these larger multifamily deals that a lot of us aspire to get into.
Okay, so what is the value of that incremental 109,000 at a 5% cap? That's essentially worth, $2.184 million. So we're increasing the value of the building by $2.184 million. Now, what is that in profit? Well, in order to get this, we had to spend about $30,000 per unit plus extra costs. So let's just say round it conservatively. We had to spend $500,000 to get this incremental value. So you subtract the costs to get that value, and you net out at about 1.684 in extra value.
Massive.
Yeah.
So essentially, what we're saying here is we acquired the property at 1.7. We created 2.1, almost 2.2 in new value. So this building, realistically, once you guys have turned it over completely, it's going to be close to $4 million.
That's right. Exactly, yes.
That is awesome, guys. Those are huge numbers. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to break it down for us. This is truly inspiring. What is up, YouTube? Matt McKeever here in Hamilton. I'm joined by Mark and Mike. A lot of M's in the room right now. And so we're going to be talking about, they've actually purchased a 7-unit and a side-by-side 7-unit, so a 14-unit complex here in Hamilton, Ontario. We're going to do an entire video on that, but I thought, first of all, it'd be great just to jump into your guys' background. How did you guys get into real estate investing, and now where are you at today with real estate?
So I started about 10 years ago. As a kid, I've always kind of thought if my parents had bought one other property, at 50 years old, they bought at 25, at 50 years old, they're gonna have this, property worth $500,000, $700,000, $800,000 fully paid off. So as a young age, I was always interested, and about 10 years ago, I decided to purchase my first duplex, and I invested my money with the company. So I kind of learned the process through that professional company. From there, I ended up partnering with somebody else who did the same. We kind of got into it together. I bought about 15 properties, had about 35 units before I got into my first multifamily building. That was in 2014 here in Hamilton. And then kind of just been moving along, and now recently purchased just 14 units. So.
That's awesome. So let's dive a little bit deeper into that. So your first deal or your first project, that was with like a turnkey provider, or what did that exactly look like? Yeah,
so they were a company who had, I think, 20 properties at the time, and what they were doing was raising money through friends and family, had the systems in place, and I was just the money guy. But I was 24 years old at the time, didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, know they were making money. So I decided to invest my money with them and kind of follow the process, see what they were doing.
Cool.
So I learned from an expert in the industry, and then, partnered with somebody else and says, I can do this on my own, and kind of learned through them. So
awesome.
Yeah.
And how about you, Mark?
Yeah, so for me, it started in 2015. So, taking weekend courses, reading a lot of books. I think I took a weekend, or I took a 2-hour night course. So basically kind of, these American companies coming in and pitching sale and flipping programs, right? So I did a 2-hour course, then a weekend course, and then I almost, purchased like their $40,000 US package to kind of be coached for a whole year, and that was all in wholesaling and flipping. So my first deal was supposed to be a wholesale deal, right? So I after 4 months of marketing and kind of by the time I thought it wasn't going to work, I finally got something under contract and was going to sell it to a friend of mine who was a flipper, and he said, well, why don't we just partner on this deal and do a flip? I was like, well, I don't really know how to do flips. I don't know, how to lift a hammer and all that kind of stuff, right? So that was my first partnership. It ended up going really well, and we've done like over 20 flips since, or from 2016 till now. Then had some duplex. We had a fourplex in Aurelia and some holds. Sold a number of those kind of recently to move into multifamily. I think, for me anyways, it's just the synergies of having multiple units under one roof. I mean, versus managing a whole bunch of properties in disparate areas. It's kind of spread out all over the place. Brampton, St. Catharines, Aurelia, Mississauga, and so trying to consolidate it now into multifamily. So yeah.
Awesome. How did you guys get connected? How did your partnership come together?
Probably through one of our other partners and some of the other projects that we're doing, even on this building. Mutual friends.
So the partner that he joined to do the flip with was a good friend of mine. Well, actually his brother was, and I knew he was kind of in the space. So when they were thinking about moving into multifamily, he had introduced us, and we kind of grown from there.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And have you kept all your single families that you acquired at the start?
I've sold a couple, but I still own about 7 of them now.
Right. Okay. And so how do you guys decide which properties to hold on to and which ones to sell? I know a lot of real estate investors constantly struggle. Often when we talk to older real estate investors, they often seem to regret the ones they sold versus the ones they held.
Yeah, so that was one of my biggest mistakes, was actually selling a few of the smaller ones. But at the same time, now looking back, I say it's a mistake. Was it a mistake? I'm capped with mortgages now, and some of the properties I have in the residential side, I have like a 35% loan to value, and because I was employed, now I'm self-employed, I'm a realtor as well, we're not able to refinance. So now we're considering selling those to put them into multifamily, where the financing is a bit of a different process, which I'm sure you guys are well aware of.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And how about you, Mark?
So I think I talked to the Aurelia one that we sold about a year ago. I mean, that one we bought purpose. It was a fourplex, cash flowed really well. The purpose of that was just to force us into that market, just to kind of, give us a reason to go there more often and buy a multifamily building. It didn't really happen. I mean, there's not much inventory there. I mean, there is, but not as much as there is, Hamilton and St. Catharines, which is where we're working now. And so it was more of just a pain to kind of be up there. We were self-managing it to some degree, and so it just wasn't efficient. So that one went. And then some properties in Brampton. It just that money I'd rather kind of put it into, because we're investing in our own buildings as well as joint venture money, and so that capital is just going to move into multifamily buildings.
Awesome. Yeah. And so what's next for you guys as real estate investors? So we're right now in one of the 7 unit buildings. The other one's right beside us. Are you looking for more properties like this, or what's the future hold?
Yeah. So I think this one, larger than this. So this is it's 14. I guess we run it as a 14. So 12 to 20 is what we're looking at. I mean, it's been super competitive. We've gone to see a lot. We've put offers on a bunch over the last few months. Haven't really captured anything. So expanding markets now. So Hamilton is a super aggressive market. So are many others in the outskirts, but we're looking at other markets now. One, from a pricing standpoint, but also just to kind of get out of the hotbed, I think, of real estate investing, which Hamilton is one of those. So absolutely looking, spending most of our time trying to find another one right now.
Awesome. And so why were you guys originally attracted to Hamilton? What is it that seems to bring so many real estate investors to Hamilton? Oftentimes it seems like we're hearing about duplex conversions in Hamilton, but it seems like a lot of people now are graduating or moving into the multifamily here as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I started investing in 2015, Hamilton was not on my radar at all. My research background, understanding economics, after understanding the economic fundamentals of Hamilton, to me it seemed very strong. A lot of investment, population growth, job growth, LRT, so transit system, outside of this building, about 50 meters away, one of the proposed stops of the light rail transit system is right there.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that, and Hamilton, I think, traditionally a blue collar town, still, I think a blue collar town, but the government, so the provincial government as well as other businesses are investing in this city, and so it's shifting away from just a strictly a blue collar town. So a lot of economic development, and I think for me, Hamilton is on a 20+ year growth path, and so I think it's a good place to put your money. There's a lot of security around that versus some of the other markets. So I think partly I think we're still buying at a discount, even though it's very competitive, still buying at a discount compared to what it will be in 5 and 10, even 15 years from now. So the economic fundamentals was a big part of it for me.
Gotcha. And so what's the difference you guys have experienced as you graduated from smaller multifamilies or single family properties to larger projects like this? Like any tips or tricks you'd share with the audience about the financing process, or just anything in general about taking that leap from, say, small multifamilies into the larger deals?
Yeah, I mean, financing was a big hiccup for me, like I was saying in the single family, where the qualification process is a little different when you get into multifamily. That's a whole other episode unless you want to go into some detail on that.
Well, if you dive a little bit, because the audience always loves to hear.
Yeah, well, I'm going to jump into actually rent-a-lift, one of the things why we transitioned. So when you're buying typically a single family home, I mean, the appreciation on that home is not necessarily factored on the rents. When you're looking in the Hamilton market, banks are financing at around a 5 cap. So $1 in value equates to about X amount, $20 in the back end, right? So I mean, just that rental lift and seeing the average market rents of $700 in this building is what, 707 average?
Say 750.
750 on average.
Yeah.
Now we're getting 1,400 plus parking. So that $700 difference equates to well over 100 grand. So that's why we've moved into multifamily specifically. There's just I think it's more stable. You're able to control the appreciation in a sense through the NOI, and then obviously the eviction of tenants. That's a whole different process, and how we kind of try and find them better value in the city. Right, taking them out, saying you can have this unit, it's bigger, better area, similar rent, help them move out, and then get in there to renovate. So that's one of the tricks that we use.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. So you guys now, are you both like full-time real estate investors, or how would you describe yourselves in your day-to-day?
So I've been investing for 10 years now. Was a licensed plumber and investing, and got up to about 40 units. Decided to become a realtor. After about 6 months of becoming a realtor, quit my plumbing job. So now I'm realtor focused in multifamily as well as my own investment company. So yeah, I'm full-fledged, and I'm helping out one of the bigger companies in the multifamily space, typically 30 units and above, as their head of acquisitions. So
awesome.
So I still own part of a marketing research company based out of Toronto. So I spend some time there working with bigger clients, less of the day-to-day stuff. So my 2 other partners work on all the day-to-day and operation stuff. So it allows me to focus the majority of my time on the investing side. Marketing, client, interaction, and then Mike and I really just finding other properties, lead gen and building, and even now just building the system to get a consistent flow of properties. Off-market properties is really what we're kind of going after, as well as a systematic way to continue to engage in dialogue with our JV partners that have partnered with us in the past, and new ones that are coming.
Gotcha. So let's talk about deal flow a bit. So I don't know how much you guys are willing to share about trying to find or source off-market deals, or just building out a deal pipeline, but it seems to be a common theme with a lot of the audience that, especially here in Ontario, Canada, we've got some very hot real estate markets. It feels like multifamilies or anything that has a decent return on investment doesn't last long on realtor.ca or the MLS. So are you guys spending most of your time looking for private deals?
So I'm actually, like I said, head of acquisitions for a company that's known here. They own the top 10 of units in Hamilton, right? Effort Trust being 15,000 units. Well, they're I think number 8, so they're known. So we've gone into letter campaigns directly to owners, a few other things, and typically owners of I would say 20 to 80 units know who we are
Okay.
So I'm getting access to a lot of stuff. So when they're passing on stuff or stuff is too small, it's kind of for us now to jump on.
Gotcha.
So they're known, and I'm sure you guys looking, anything that hits MLS typically has gone through all the big guys, right? And if you're an individual sending out a letter to a building owner, now that building owner may not have confidence. Who is this guy? Can they close? That's why I've just decided to help out a reputable company who owners know are purchasing lots in the city.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So
Yeah.
you found reputation goes a long way when it comes to buying multifamily.
Because I'm finding building owners, yes, obviously they want the highest price, but when they are looking to sell, they want the confidence that you're able to close. They don't want to lock this building up for a 30 or 45 day conditional period and then realize you couldn't close, or you don't have the money, or you're not able to analyze these things. So that reputation allows us to say, okay, let's put something together. We're willing to work with you first. We know who you are.
Yeah,
Right.
that's huge actually.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
we were actually talking about this before we started filming, that the way you guys ended up getting this deal, the one we're standing in right now, was someone had tied it up first, it fell through, sounded like someone else tied it up, fell through,
Yeah.
and like this happened multiple times on this property and project. So do you mind sharing, like, from your perspective, what are some of the mistakes that you're seeing other investors when they're trying to break into multifamily make?
Yeah, I mean, so even just this, as you mentioned, so this was off the MLS. So we bought this one off the MLS, and it was on the market. I think it was like 400 days. So it's a very long time.
Yeah.
So, and the reason why it was on the MLS for 400 days is because it was locked up conditionally at least 3 times, maybe 4, 3 times, and it fell through those 3 times because of financing. And what the agent that was listing this told us is that the people, the prior 3 times, they were...
Ben and I have something to announce that we're really excited about.
We're getting married.
Better. We're actually going to be starting a company, Cashflow Tribe.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited about this. It really combines a lot of our passions and a lot of our focus together. And so this is going to be a real estate business. It's going to be education oriented. And we need to know exactly what to make this business for you guys, for the audience. So here's the deal. We're going to put together a survey. We want to pick your brain and understand exactly what's holding you back from jumping in or leveling up as a real estate investor. And as part of this trade for filling out the survey, I'm going to give everyone that fills out the survey access to OREC 2019 footage. There's literally like 20 hours plus of amazing content from OREC 2019. But in addition, we're going to pick one lucky survey participant, and we're going to give away 2 free OREC tickets, as well as a one-on-one with both of us. So you'll get to sit down with us. Maybe Ben will even bring out the Lambo for you guys, and you can pick our brains on anything you want to talk about. And you should have a lot of questions for this guy that's already done 181 deals, over $21 million in non-bank financing, and that's just like the tip of the iceberg.
We need your help, guys, please. For us to really understand what's better for you, we need you to fill out the survey and tell us how we can help you. We're going to have off-market deals, tons of training and support. We're combining our 2 worlds to give you a lot of value. So please help us, and the trips and the excursions and fun things are a nice bonus, but truly help us understand what you need so we can help deliver it in a massive way. Let's do it together.
Absolutely. Link in the video description down below. It's just going to take a couple minutes. Jump over, do it. We'll give you free access to the course, and we look forward to hearing what's holding you guys back.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
Hey, one more thing. I'm also going to do a Lambo lunch one-on-one with whoever the winner is here today. We'll get a chance to sit down, drive the Lambo, have a bite, talk life, business, personal development, and I want to do that with you. So let's do it. Let's stay humble. Let's get it.
So we bought this one off the MLS, and it was on the market, I think it was like 400 days. So it's a very long time.
Yeah.
So, and the reason why it was on the MLS for 400 days is because it was locked up conditionally at least 3 times, maybe 4, 3 times. And it fell through those 3 times because of financing. And what the agent that was listing this told us is that the people, the prior 3 times, they were residential buyers, so they were used to residential financing process. And this is very different, and so I think the expectation was that they were going to get an 80% LTV on this property, not anticipating that it could have been 60, 65, or 70, meaning that on day of close or time of close, you have to come up with significantly more money. So that happened, 3 times. So I think for people getting into it is figuring out what the financing is going to be, working with a realtor that understands that as well. So not a residential realtor, because the space is very different.
Yeah.
Speaking to or building a finance team, or speaking to a broker or lender that understands commercial space, because I think residential brokers may think they understand it, but if you haven't done it before, then there's intricacies and nuances that will pop up to bite you on day of close or week of close, which you want to avoid. So, we benefited from, I think, the inexperience of those that tried to lock this up before us. So I think, knowing the numbers, anticipating that it's not playing on an 80% LTV, because that doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
Unless it's CMHC insured. Plan for much lower, and if it ends up being higher, then great, right? It's a bonus, but plan on a 60-65% LTV, depending. Now, our strategy is value add, so we're buying things that are very low in rents. So the LTV, the loan to value, is going to be a lot lower than something that may be a little more turnkey. And so it depends on what your strategy is as well.
Yeah, awesome, love it. Anything that you've seen dealing with like larger multifamilies?
Yeah, larger multifamilies, you're getting, more educated buyer, so not as much, but typically under 20 units. I would say the main factor, and I just spoke at another event, the main factor is people aren't analyzing these deals the way the lenders analyze them. Lenders add in resident manager, maintenance per unit, so when they think, they're putting this analyzer together, we're gonna get X amount of dollars, and it falls through because they're not doing it right. That, I've noticed this more so, last year prior to that. Now with this market becoming so saturated, everybody seems to know that they're overpaying.
Yeah.
So they're anticipating it. And I've only found that, in the last 8 to 10 months, but prior to that, there was a lot of mistakes. But now everyone's anticipating it's worth $1 million. I probably got to pay $1.2 million for the building.
Yeah.
Right? So it's less and less now. So.
Awesome. Yeah, I love it. Those were some great tips. All right, let's now talk about contractors. It's one of the really scary things when it comes to renovations and being a real estate investor. I'd love to hear your opinion, Mark and Mike, on exactly how you guys approach finding the right contractors for your projects, and any tips you have with the audience.
So this project in particular, again, the contractor being used here does about 100 or so units like this, give or take 100 square feet in the Hamilton market. So very experienced in turning over, renovating units for rental. So one experience, I think, asking about experience, because I think, Mike, you mentioned earlier, there's, people that do really great kind of work for residential homes and luxury homes. It's not the person or the company that you want for this, because their costs are going to be higher. They're going to look at details that aren't really required for rental units. So you want to have someone that's experienced in turning over units for the purposes of rental, because they're also going to give you some advice. If they're doing 100 units a year, you're going to learn from them as well. I think you want to, if they're not that experienced, you want to probably take a look at their work, right? You want to, get some references. What were they from a timing perspective? I think one of the things that at least I know, in multifamily, but also even in a lot of my flip projects, is the time it takes to renovate, right? Every month that this is vacant, we're losing money, right? So you need a contractor that one is going to do it quickly, efficiently, properly, but they're actually going to deliver something in, for us, that's got to be 6 weeks or less, so that we're only vacant for 2 months. We can get it rented on the 8th or 9th week. So you want to check up on that, especially when you're talking to references. Did they deliver on time? Because, at least my experience is everyone says they're going to deliver on time, but it's the difference between what they say they do and what they're actually going to do. And if you're working with a new contractor, your only proof of that is one, working with them and finding out later that they might not be working on time, but talk to their references, right? So I think that's a big piece, especially in the rental game. You want to kind of turn things over as quickly as possible. Also, material sourcing. If they're buying from big box, it's probably going to be a higher cost. Again, the team that we're using imports stuff in crates from China. So from a per unit perspective, that drives it down a little bit. So where are they sourcing their materials? Do they have relationships with big material sourcing companies? How many units do they do per year of this? As well as what's timing and in references in general. Anything else I think I missed?
Yeah, I mean, if you're not familiar with cost, I would say interview multiple contractors. I mean, I'm a licensed plumber by trade. That's my background, so I'm familiar with stuff. Mark has done, 25 plus flips over the last 3 years, so we're very familiar with cost, able to kind of gauge if the contractor is going to deliver just based on the way we feel. But I would get multiple quotes from contractors if you aren't familiar with pricing, because we've seen, especially in this size of unit, contractors be $10,000 more. So I mean, now if we're not 30, we're 40 across 14 units, you can potentially be spending, hundreds of thousands of dollars more than you need to.
Talking about renovations and contractors, one of the biggest mistakes I see novice investors make is not setting expectations correctly and overpaying their contractors at the start of the job. I'd love to hear, Mike and Mark, what your opinions are on this subject matter.
So in terms of never pay contractors 100% upfront. The intentions may be good, you never know, but there's so many stories, so many horror stories where the client gets screwed in the end, right? So the way we do it and the way we have it organized here is 10% to start, or sorry, a third to start, so which is 10,000 for this unit, midway through another 10, and then once everything's done and we've walked through it, I think the important thing, you got to walk through your units, right? And don't pay the final invoice until everything is done, like even nicks on the floor, proper plumbing, like all that kind of stuff has to be done. And the thing is, when contractors are rushing through a project, they might miss things. And so you need to go through that with them, do a walkthrough with them, and make sure everything is 100% done before you pay that final invoice. Anything else in terms of?
Yeah, I mean a few things. It doesn't necessarily have to be third up front, but as long as it's structured in a way that when you're paying, what that guideline is. If the flooring goes in or paint gets done, how much are you paying? And then always have a holdback, because what we found with contractors is it's fast to get 90% of the job done, but that last 10% sometimes takes longer than the first 90%. So holdbacks are very important. But yeah, the guideline of paying a third up front, a third, it doesn't have to be that way. Just structure it in a way that works for you and the contractor, and also hold back until the job is 100% complete.
And we were talking earlier before we turned the cameras on about the importance of your contractor being able to have their own float. Do you guys mind just sharing with the audience why that's so important in your opinion?
Yeah, I think, okay, so, a contract, so float being they're able to fund a project without having to ask you for money, that's really good. It's a bonus, and one, it shows that.
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt, but if you're enjoying this video with Mike and Mark and you want to learn more about Hamilton real estate, more about how they're investing or just their investing journey, we've actually shot some Facebook exclusive videos. We're going to be releasing them on a private Facebook group. I'll throw a link in the video description down below. All you guys need to do is join that Facebook group and you'll get access to these videos. Oftentimes what ends up happening is we shoot a lot of content when we go out to meet with these real estate investors. Sometimes it always just doesn't fit nice and neatly into a YouTube video, but I want somewhere else to be able to release this and provide you guys value with. So I think we're going to throw these videos in the Cashflow Tribe. If you guys join the Cashflow Tribe Facebook group, you'll be able to get access to these videos.
Do you guys mind just sharing with the audience why that's so important in your opinion?
Yeah, I think, okay, so, a contract, so float being they're able to fund a project without having to ask you for money, that's really good. It's a bonus, and one, it shows that, they have a well-run business and well-run operation, so that already is a good component. On the flip houses that I've done and do, sometimes you run into contractors that, want $3,000 before they do an an install, or, $2,500. That's, to me, that's nickel and diming. And if they can't survive a week or 2 or 3 weeks without that extra $2,500, they're probably not running a sound business or operation. And also, you don't want those calls. You're running a business. You don't want those calls, people nagging you for money. Pay on schedule. The other thing, like in the first unit that we did, we didn't pay for that until 2-3 weeks after right? It was done. So that was very helpful from a cash flow standpoint. We already had the unit rented, and then we were able to pay. Again, it's the relationship that was developed over years, and the company that we're using has a very big float. So that's helpful from our cash flow standpoint, and we're able to leverage that, and it helped.
I mean, one other point, not having a float sometimes allows for delays. So they want money up front, you start saying, well, why? We agreed on this, a week, 2 goes by, now you're a week or 2 later to your completion date, losing potentially a month of rent. So typically contractors who have a float, they'll get the job done, say, here, it's complete, we're looking for payment, not be nickeling, diming. So, I mean, if you can, across 14 units again in this, and in bigger stuff, 20, 30 units, if you're 2-3 weeks behind, out 16, 17, 18 weeks of rent, or months of rent potentially, what does that do to your end result with cash flow and your investor returns and your returns as well? So something to keep in mind.
And again, I think it's, if you're getting into multifamily, even smaller single family, you got to be running it like a business, right? It shouldn't be a side project. It may be, even if it is a side project, you still should be running it like a business. Vet your contractors, ask them the questions, make sure they have the systems in place, because you're going to save a lot. Even if you're paying a little bit more for a company that has more experience than others that are charging less, I think in the long run, it's going to, save you a ton of headaches.
I just want to add one point and one experience on another building I have. So I had expectations to renovate 3 units this year in that particular building, and was doing a refinance. So I had money set aside for those 3 units, just over 100 grand to have those done. Fortunately, unfortunately, however you look at it, I had another 2 units become vacant unexpectedly, and my refinance wasn't for another 3 months. So it was a conversation with the contractor. Did you want to get in there and renovate those? I won't be able to pay you for 3 months down the road, but yet you have the opportunity to get in, you have the job. So because I was working with a contractor who's able to float, I got those units renovated, now doing the refinance and able to pull out. And as you've seen in one of the other episodes there, is that $126,000 across those 2 extra units was, $250,000, getting a 75% LTV because I am going CMHC. I'm able now to pull out an additional $200,000 on a refi because I had a contractor who's able to float me the renovations. So that's one of the benefits as well. Hey guys, Mike Rockall here in Hamilton at our most recent purchase. If you guys want to reach me, my email is mike@rockallrealestate.ca or on Instagram @rockallrealestate.
Mark Baltazar, peakpropertyinvestments.ca. I can be reached at mark@peakpropertyinvestments.ca, as well as on Instagram and Facebook, Mark_Baltazar. Super excited to share insights with Matt McKeever and the crew, and also look out for podcasts that we've just launched, Canadian Multifamily Investing in Canada, specifically about multifamily investing in Canada.
Did you guys get value from that video? I know if you were paying attention, you absolutely got a ton of value. So smash that like button, hit the subscribe button if you're new to my channel, and remember, there's more than enough money out there for us to all make it, but if you're not saving it, I mean, like, what's the point? Thanks, guys. Oh, and quick reminder, if you guys haven't already seen the Facebook exclusive video with Mike and Mark, you need to jump over to Facebook. We'll throw a link in the video description down below. I look forward to seeing you guys in the Facebook group.